Welcome to LearnWise Academy. Today we'll be looking at root of functions 2. Root of functions 2. So we've done the first one, root of functions. So we want to do more examples or find the root of more functions. Something like these 4 questions I've listed out. So the heading says find the root of the following functions. And number one says f of z is equal to absolute value of z minus 6, closed absolute value minus 3. Our second question says g of x is equal to x minus 1 all over absolute value of 6 or absolute value of x. And the third question says f of x is equal to 8. I know people complain most about this particular question, so I decided to chip it in so that we can, clarify every single thing about that particular function. It's a single thing. So let's look at the fourth one. The fourth one says f of omega equal to absolute value omega plus 3, close absolute value minus 7. So how are we going to work with this question? So first of all, look at number one. Number one says absolute value of what? Number one says absolute value of, we should find the root of f of z equal to absolute value of z minus 6, close absolute value minus 3. So solution. How are we going to work with this question? Now, in order to work with this question, we're going to follow rules for solving the root of absolute value function, or root for solving the general root. Rules for solving the general roots of a function. So, what are the rules? The first rule for solving the root of a function, roots or zeros of a function, is to equate f of z to 0. Of course, we know that f of z is equal to 0. We've already done the introductory part of this root of a function. We're just here to solve more examples on it. So if f of z is equal to 0, it means I should equate everything here to 0, which implies I'm going to have absolute value of z minus 6, close absolute value minus 3, everything equal to what? Equal to 0. So what's the next move? The next move now is to cross minus 3 over to the other side. If we cross minus 3 to the other side, what are we going to have? We're going to have absolute value of z minus 6, close absolute value equal to what? 3. So what do we have? Now looking at this, when we cross minus 3 to this side, we have a positive 3. Now let's call this our star. So why am I calling this our star? It's because for absolute value function, we have to solve for both the positive and the negative side of the what? Of the absolute value. So if I cross whatever I have here, that means this absolute value function is shifted 3 times negative. Like it's shifted 3 times negatively. So now if I cross whatever I have here to the over to the equal to sign and I have positive, it means that I'm going to solve for the positive side first. Then I'll now solve for the negative side of the absolute value. Because absolute value is a positive transferring machine. Anything you put inside will come out positive. So now let's solve for the positive side. That's why I call this star. So absolute value of z minus 6 will give me what? Will give me z minus 6. Then I'll have equal to what? 3. So what am I going to have? I'm going to solve for z. If I cross minus 6 to this side, so z becomes what? 3 plus 6. So z is equal to what? 9. Alright. Now, after solving for the first one, which is star, we do it again for the second one, which I call star star. So for star star, I'm going to have absolute value of z minus 6, close absolute value equal to what? Minus 3. That is the negative aspect of the absolute value. So I'm going to call this star star. Okay, now for star star, how are we going to work with star star? For star star, we are simply going to do the same thing we did for star, which is absolute value of z minus 6 will give me z minus 6 equal to what? Minus 3. So I'm simply going to cross this minus 6 to the other side. I'm going to have z is equal to minus 3 plus 6. And z will be equal to minus 3 means you are owing somebody and you now give the person 6. You are owing somebody 3 naira and you are owing somebody 3 naira, which is minus means you are owing, and you now give the person plus means you gave the person 6 naira. How much are you now owing the person? You are no longer owing the person, rather the person is now owing you a change. So what do we have? Z is equal to what? 3. That is what we are going to have. So therefore I can say that the roots of this particular function is equal to 9 and what? And 3. So this is how we solve for the roots of absolute value functions. Now over to the second question. What does the second question say? Let's check out the second question. The second question says, given g of x equal to x minus 1 all over absolute value of x, what are we going to have? We're simply going to have that. Okay, let's repeat our question. G of x equal to what? G of x is equal to x minus 1 all over absolute value of what? Absolute value of x. What's the first move? Solution. And the second move is to get the root. We want to get the root of this. The second move is to equate to 0. So if we equate this function to 0, that means g of x is equal to 0. That means anywhere we see g of x, we put 0. If we put 0 here, then we'll kind of flip it the other way around. We're going to have x minus 1 all over absolute value of x equal to what? 0. Then if we have this x minus 1 all over absolute value of x equal to 0, we are simply going to have, that is working with it, we're simply going to have x minus 1 all over absolute value of x will give you x, and we have everything equal to what? 0. Now if everything is equal to 0, what's the next move? We just need to cross multiply because we have a denominator. So this is over 1, so we just cross multiply. So everything here, let me put this in brackets, everything here will multiply 1, everything here will multiply 0. So we are simply going to have everything here multiplies 1. We're going to have x minus 1 equal to x multiplies 0 will give me what? 0. So we're just going to solve for x now, because the root means you solve for, that's after equating the function to 0, then you solve for x. That is how we work for the roots. So now looking at this now, what's the next move we are going to take? Cross minus 1 over to the other side. You are simply going to have x is equal to what? 1. So this becomes the root slash 0 of this particular function. Now over to number 3. Let's see what number 3 is saying. Number 3 says that f of x is equal to 8. F of x is equal to 8. So how do we work with this kind of function? Let's get a new sheet. All right. How do we work with number 3? Now I3, what's it saying? It says that f of x is equal to 8. So simple thing we are going to do is to write solution. The next move, we're going to first of all observe the function f of x equal to 8. Even if we say let f of x be equal to 0, you watch now, it means that we're trying to imply that 8 is equal to 0, which can never be. 8 can never be equal to 0. So what does it imply? It implies that this particular function has no root. This particular function has no root or zeros. It's as simple as this. It's a singleton function, so it has no root. Now over to the last one, which is number 4. Number 4 says that f of omega is equal to absolute value of omega plus 3 minus 7. The same thing we did in number 1. Still going to repeat the same thing here. We say let f of omega be equal to 0. That means we just put 0 here. So it will imply that I'm going to have absolute value of omega plus 3 minus 7, everything equal to what? 0. So we'll simply cross this to this side. We're going to have absolute value of omega plus 3 equal to, when we cross negative 7 to this side, we'll have a positive 7. So we're going to call this star, just like we usually say. We'll call this what? Star. So we'll solve for the positive side. So when we solve, what are we going to have? Absolute value of omega plus 3. We're going to have omega plus 3 equal to what? 7. So we'll cross 3 to the other side. We're going to have omega is equal to 7 minus what? 3. So omega is equal to what? 4. So this becomes the first one. So we solve for the second one, which is where we say absolute value of omega plus 3 equal to what? Minus 7, which we call what? Star, star. So as we call this star, star, what do we do? Absolute value of omega plus 3 will remain omega plus 3 equal to minus what? 7. So we need to cross plus 3 over to the other side. When we cross it, what do we have? Omega will be equal to minus 7 minus 3. So omega is equal to minus 7 minus 3. That will give you what? Minus 10. So therefore, we can say that the roots of omega is equal to what? 4 and what? And minus 10. So this is called the roots slash the zeros of this particular function. So here is where we're going to stop for today on root of functions. When next we get more complicating functions, we are going to get back to this particular topic, which is the root of function. Thank you very much for watching. Kindly like, subscribe, hit the notification bell to get our videos when we upload them. Share to your friends. Very, very important. Thank you very much.